Hi there. I'm Sandy Thomson, the host of this show coming up. And the show, though, is really for you. Our main topic tonight will be about the changes for Medicare, and there are some really significant ones that I think you're going to want to know about. Greg MacDonald comes every year this time for a couple of our shows and explains what's going to be happening the next year and what these changes are. And he's here with us tonight and will be with us again next week here on Life Ahead. That's Wednesday night at 7:30. Now, do keep in mind, if you haven't watched this before, this really is your show, so I want you to call in if you have any questions. We're really fortunate to have this expertise with us tonight that can help guide you through these Medicare changes. It gets pretty complicated. 969-2720. Meanwhile, if you didn't see him last year or the year before, the year before, the year before.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. This is Greg MacDonald, expert obviously on insurance and Medicare. And Greg, we were guessing, 10 years maybe you've been
good
doing
10
this
years.
show?
10 years doing this, yes.
I still don't know everything about Medicare. I should know, even though you've been here sharing that with. Well, it keeps changing.
It constantly changes, and this year particularly, they've made it very interesting for us.
Well, I would assume most of you probably have gotten your new pamphlet, booklet, Medicare and You for 2025. If not, you probably will be getting it very soon, and there is what it will look like, so watch your mailboxes for that. Don't throw it away. You may need to refer to it, and Greg's going to give us some ideas of really what you should be paying attention to. It's a pretty thick book. I would say we're probably about 1/3 of an inch or something. I wouldn't want to sit down and have nighttime reading with this.
It's better than a sleeping pill.
Well, that's true. They would put you to sleep.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you don't need to know everything that's in here, and it's indexed very, very well. And there are lots of things written up in question form, and then the answers there. So it'll guide you through finding out what you need to know, because it's going to be different for different people. Okay, let's talk about why there are so many changes this year, Greg. I know we always talk about new changes, but this year's really significant. Why?
Well, Congress passed the Inflation Reduction Act, and that particular act really had some impact on the prescription drug plan program. And it did some good things, and it did some things that are going to impact people in a negative way too. The biggest change that you're going to see is, you may recall that the drug plans have a deductible, then they have the initial phase, and then you went into the coverage gap or donut hole. Everybody was always, oh, I hate to get into that. And then they had what they call the catastrophic phase. Well, the coverage gap donut hole has been eliminated totally.
Well, good, because most people didn't really understand that, and it was a surprise.
Yeah, it's always a shock. All of a sudden, you had a small copay, and then boom, your prices went up, and it's like, wow, what just happened here?
Right.
And I get calls, and what?
Yeah, why?
Here? Well,
why?
Yeah, well,
so we don't have to worry about the coverage gap. And what was the second thing that was?
Well, yeah, the coverage gap is gone.
Okay.
So the way it's going to work for next year, there's going to be a deductible in your plans. Now, most of the plans that I've looked at will either have a deductible of $590 or less. And sometimes they'll split that. They might have a $590 deductible for brand name drugs and a zero deductible for tier 1 or tier 2 generic drugs, which are the less expensive ones.
Sure.
And so once that deductible is met, you get in what they call the initial phase, where you're paying approximately 25% of the cost of the drug.
And the insurance company is going to pay the rest for you.
Right, they're paying the rest. And that might come in the form of a copay, or you might not have a charge at all if it's a low-cost generic. And then once you reach what they call their true out-of-pocket of $2,000,
of your pay.
Of what you pay.
Okay.
It isn't quite as simple as that. They have a formula, and it's basically the true out-of-pocket is a combination of what you pay and what the insurance company is paying.
Okay.
Okay. So depending upon the drug, you might spend $2,000, you might spend less than $2,000. okay? It just depends on the combination and your drug plan's formulary.
Yeah.
But once the $2,000 threshold is reached, then all the drugs the rest of the year are paid for. The insurance companies will pay it as long as the drug is on the plan's formulary.
And it used to be 8,000. Am I
Yeah,
correct?
last year the true out-of-pocket was $8,000.
So a lot of people didn't meet that, but maybe they were well into 5,000, 6,000.
You're right, right. So far more people are going to hit it now.
Yeah.
And particularly because some of these drugs that we're taking now are really expensive. I mean, you have popular drugs like Trulicity, Eliquis, Ozempic. Those drugs have become increasingly popular, but they have a high price tag. And so those drugs will get you to that $2,000 threshold really
In
fast.
about a month.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of them, that's true. Some of it, that is exactly right. It's about a month.
Yeah. I mean, I just get astounded when I, hear people talk about, they went to get a prescription filled and it was $640 for one thing, for 1 month.
Well, in fact, I had a meeting today with a client, and she's on Enbrel. Well, Enbrel is $9,000 a month. And so with her, she'll hit that threshold the first, in January.
Wow.
Yeah, so, and there's more expensive drugs than that out there. So, yeah, some people will hit that right away.
Well, then, but it doesn't matter. I mean, she's going to get her 2,000 just like everybody else, but not anymore because hers is more expensive.
Well, she hits the $2,000, and then that Enbrel is zero the rest of the year.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Wow, that will make a huge
difference.
Huge difference. What about, you talked about things, tier one obviously being less, or maybe not even having any copay.
Correct.
Is it possible that a lot of people have medications that are not on tier one, that if they just ask the doctor to rewrite the prescription, they could do that? How does that work?
Well, yes. There are drugs, for example, warfarin is a blood thinner. It's been around for a long time.
Okay.
Okay, and there's zero copay for that for most things. But there are other drugs that doctors feel are more effective, less risk, and they're higher priced, and so they'll go on those types of blood thinners at a higher cost. So can you request like a low-cost drug like warfarin? Yes. But and it's like, okay, what's best for your health? And so you're going to have to, monitor that to see what's going to be best for you.
Well, when I hear on TV all the time now, timely, I'm sure, but, is that the diabetes drug is now $35 a month as compared to what was it before?
Well,
is that going to continue, that sort
yes,
of thing?
that's the insulin.
Oh,
so
insulin, okay.
Insulin is what you're talking about there.
Okay.
And yes, they have a cap at $35 for all insulin products. So Novolog, Humalog, those types of things, there's $35 as a max out of pocket.
And that won't change?
That will not change.
Okay. And there's talk that there may be more drugs that move down the scale. Is that
That's true.
possible?
They have a negotiation program where they take 10 drugs a year and they work on negotiating a lower price. Medicare itself works with the drug companies.
Who makes the decision on what those 10 drugs are?
The government.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They take the most popular drugs that are expensive and then work on trying to reduce that cost through drug negotiations.
Working with the pharmacy.
Right.
Pharmacy. Okay. Pharma, I guess.
Big pharma.
Is that what everybody says? Big pharma.
Yeah, big pharma.
Big pharma. Well, I want to be in, so I'm going to, use that phrase as well. Okay. Inflation Reduction Act. Is this something that it took place, obviously, this year, but doesn't go into effect until 2025?
Right. Well, we've seen some things phased in. Okay.
Oh, have we?
Yeah, we've seen some things phased in, but this 25 is where the big change comes with the drug program itself. And one thing I'll mention about that act, because we talked about the $2,000 limit or cap on how much a person can spend, And in the case of my friend with Enbrel, she had going to have a $2,000 hit right off front. They introduced what they call the Medicare Prescription Payment Program, MP3, because we have to initialize everything. We can't describe it, we have to initialize it, right? But anyway, what that does is it allows you to spread the cost of the drug out over the year. So in her case, she could apply to her insurance company and ask to join that program. And if that's the case, they would take that $2,000 and they would break it up in 12-month segments, so she doesn't have that big hit right up front.
Oh, okay. So once a month for a year payment plan.
Yeah.
All right. No, wait a minute. Did you say that's in effect now?
It'll starts in January.
Starts in January. Any drug or certain drugs?
Well, it's any drug, but really it doesn't make any sense for an inexpensive drug.
Sure.
Sure. It's going to be those that hit the deductible, that are high-priced drugs. And you don't have to start this in January. You can start it mid-year, anytime. So if you're prescribed Eliquis, let's say in May, and you find that hard to meet right up front, you can apply for that and spread that out for the remainder of the calendar year.
Okay. All right. I think I get that. Okay. Don't forget, you can give us a call here to ask Greg questions about Medicare and insurance, and you'll help, right?
I will try.
Okay. Okay, you mentioned some of the drugs, and one that you said that I hear so much about now is Ozempic. Am I saying that right?
You are.
Okay. I know that's not as big in Fort Wayne as it is Hollywood, because I guess that it's being used a lot for weight loss.
Right.
Or is there another reason for it? I don't know that much about it.
It is a diabetic drug.
Oh, diabetic drug. Okay.
Yeah, it's a diabetic drug. And the thing about some of these weight loss drugs like Ozempic, they're not approved for Medicare for weight loss.
Aha.
So if your doctor, if you want to get it for weight loss, understand Medicare is not going to pay for that. You have to have another reason. The weight loss thing with Ozempic was kind of like, oh, a side effect.
Right. Weren't they like surprised? Like, oh, look what happens when you take this.
It was like with the ED drugs. It was for blood pressure, and all of a sudden they had another side effect with it. And they go, oh, we can market it for this. And that's kind of what is happening with Ozempic and Wegovy and some of these others that have come on. And yeah, they've been proved effective, but they're not approved for weight loss under Medicare.
So what do you do? I mean, do you have to have a doctor?
So for example, a lot of it, let's say you have a heart condition, okay, and one of these drugs impacts your circulatory system, right?
Sure.
Well, you can use that if it's prescribed for the circulatory problem, and obesity is part of the problem when it comes to diabetes and problems. So if it's prescribed for those reasons, Medicare will cover some of these, but not for weight loss itself.
Okay, so most private insurance companies would, regardless of what it's referred as?
It depends. Every company has their own formulary, which is the list of drugs that they cover. Okay. And since we're talking about that, they have tiers, as we're talking about generics.
Every insurance company will
they have a tier.
Tiers.
So usually the lower the tier, the lower the price.
Yeah.
Okay. But sometimes a company will take an expensive drug and put it on a lower tier and use it as a loss leader to get people into their plan.
A fairly common one.
So when you come to these things, this is why every year it makes sense to check out your drugs and see how they're going to work on your current plan, or if there's a plan that would be more cost efficient for you. So
then you take a list of your drugs and the how many milligrams, the whole information. You take that to tell me if I'm telling this correctly. You would take that to your insurance agent and have them see if that's still the best deal for them for the insurance plan you have, or if they've changed things.
The things that agents have that help with being an advantage. We have software that we can plug these things into and really rapidly determine okay, which plans are going to have everything on there and how it would lower cost. Now, an individual can do that by themselves. If they went on Medicare.gov, you can go through there and do your own as well. So it's however you want to do it. But agents have the advantage of being experienced in this, and we can do it pretty quickly.
Sure.
And make it convenient for you.
I mean, I suppose you could do that at home if you want to sit in front of your computer for several hours, but not really knowing what you're doing, and you'd have to go to all the different insurance companies.
You do. It becomes one of the first times. It was so funny. This was in 2006, and we had a gentleman that called me, and he was a retired engineer. And he would call me every week during the entire enrollment period and ask me about a plan. He said, here's my drugs. And so he asked me first off, which plan would I recommend? I said, this one. He said, okay, I'll get back with you. And every week he called me. And then at the last week, first week in December, because the enrollment period goes October 15th to December 7th, he says, hey, I want to meet with you. And so I won't meet with him. I want to show you. And he's, like I said, he had his paper. He had written out every plan, cost of his drugs on every single plan.
Wow.
And he said, you know what I found out? He said, the one you recommended was the one that was the least expensive.
Oh, surprise.
Well, surprise, surprise.
Surprise, surprise. We have a phone call. James is on the line here. James wants to know this. How can I qualify to get paid to care for a parent through Medicaid, or is that Medicare? There you go. See, and it's that constant confusion between Medicare and Medicaid. I wish the two names were totally different, but they're not.
Yeah, and keep in mind, James, the difference between the two programs. Medicare is the federal program for the aged or disabled. Medicaid is a state program for those that are financially challenged. What you're referring to would have to be qualified through Medicaid, through the state Medicaid office. So you would need to contact them and explain the situation, put in an application, and go through them.
And I'm sure that you can begin that process, James, online, by just Googling Medicaid. Again, it's Medicaid. And begin to look for information about your particular situation. Or maybe there will be a phone number, but perhaps there that you can use. And
the Medicaid office here in Fort Wayne is down there on the old Sears building there on Clinton and Rudisill. Yeah, it's down.
Oh, I know that building well.
Yeah.
Grew up going to Sears for school clothes.
Yeah, so it's down in the bowels of that building.
Oh, I did not know that. What's the rest of the building used for, do you know?
No, I don't. It's a lot of government offices and things.
Oh, all right. It's near Foster Park. I do know that, right? Isn't it?
No. Well, Foster's on the other end of it. Yeah, that's right. Okay, we're good.
Well, see, there's a reason we did this show tonight, so we could figure out the geography of Fort Wayne. Okay, we've talked about the minimum premium payment plan. Is there any situation where you can't arrange a monthly payment, and do you do this through the pharmacy or through the doctor?
No, if you want to utilize this payment program, you would put an application into the insurance company itself.
Oh, okay.
In that case, you would not make a payment at the pharmacy. You would pay the insurance company, and they're tasked with collecting that and then paying the drug company.
Okay, all right.
And see, just to kind of put this in perspective, there's some good things with this, right? So we're capping this and we're allowing payments. The downside of it is the insurance companies have to pay more now. It's costing them more because they're picking up this additional payment. They're having to come up with this collection program and paying. So what are they doing? Well, they're going to spread the cost out over everybody else.
Everybody else.
So what
yourself.
What happens for people who are don't take a lot of drugs, you're going to see some costs go up. You're going to see on the Advantage plans we're seeing some drug deductibles in these plans where we didn't before. Some of the ancillary benefits aren't quite as good as they were in the past. I mean, it's not dramatic, but you can see a little bit of a difference where usually every year we find that the Advantage plans, the benefits got a little bit better, a little bit better. Well, this year, not as much.
Well, I guess what I'm hearing then is, which is not unusual, happens with a lot of things, that because of these changes, it's very good for some people, especially those taking a lot of medications. But because of the changes in the way it's handled, and now the insurance companies have to take care of the monthly payments, whatever. There's more paperwork, more office people. It's just going to cost
It's
the
going to
insurance
cost more.
company.
Right, and you're going to see some of that in the drug plan premiums. Now, the premiums are being subsidized by the government this year to help keep the costs down.
Okay.
Okay, so it isn't as a dramatic a change as it was. Once the government saw how high the prescription drug plans premiums were going to be, they thought, oh, we got to check this a little bit. So they came up with a program to help subsidize the insurance companies on these drug plans in return for not increasing premiums more than $35 a month.
Oh, okay.
So companies kind of worked in between there. You see somebody, they're taking the full advantage of that $35. Some of them have just kind of narrowed their formularies a little bit and kind of work that way. So we see in general, drug plans cost more this year. And
well, and I guess the point that I was thinking about in terms of like it happens with a lot of things, because they're now having to do additional work, paperwork, office work, or whatever,
right,
for the payment. What do you call it? Payment plans?
Yeah, prescription payment plan.
Then that means somebody has to pay for it. So it's going to be everybody that's signed up for that insurance is all going to have to, they're all going to have to contribute a little bit.
A little bit more. Yes.
And it's going to benefit people that have a lot of medications.
Yes.
But people that don't, sorry, that's just kind of the way it is.
Yeah.
But it's sort of like taxes. It's like, we pay our property taxes, and if you don't have children,
you're paying for the schools anyway.
You're paying for the schools anyway.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's right. That's
and
right.
it's just, that's the way it is. We just want to make sure that we're bringing these things up so it's not a big surprise to you. All right, let's talk about prior authorizations. Any changes in that area?
No, I think what happens, one of the ways that the insurance companies are going to help minimize some of these costs is they're narrowing their drug list, the drugs that they're covering. They're going to change some of the tiers.
Fewer drugs?
Fewer drugs. Some of them are going to have fewer drugs on their list. Prior authorization means that the company has to approve that for your use. Yeah. One thing to avoid, if you possibly can, is a thing they call step therapy, which happens if a company uses step therapy on a drug. They will fill the prescription initially, but they're going to tell you that you need to use a lower priced drug the next time around. And the only way you get around that is you have to have a physician apply to the insurance company saying why you have to have this drug, and it goes before a board there in the insurance company to say, okay, do we want to approve this or not? And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. If you can avoid step therapy, avoid it. It just creates...
Sounds very complicated.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Time consuming. And what kind of reason would the physician give when it's really
you might
just
say
a
that,
monetary?
let's just say that there's a brand name drug and you've tried all the generic alternatives.
Oh, I see.
And they did not work. And so in that case, they can say, this is why. Now, here's the thing. Right now, you have this opportunity to change plans. If you have this opportunity and then you get into January and say, I want this drug, and the company will say, you had an opportunity, right? Now, if it happens in May, it's kind of a different story. But yeah, don't. And some people will say, well, we went through the step therapy thing and earlier this year, and they covered it this year. That's no guarantee they're going to cover it next. It's like they do it for the rest of the year until you have an opportunity to change plans. Sure. And going back to my client with Enbrel, she was on a plan for years. Well, this year that plan is not going to cover Enbrel. I said this year. Next year they're not going to cover it. So even though she's been on this plan for years and she likes it, well, now she's going to have to change plans if she wants that drug covered. And that's why it's important right now, if you have a drug list, check your drug plan. Make sure it's still going to work for you next year, because a lot of these premiums are going up and some of these drugs are not going to be covered with the plan you currently have.
Well, that's one of the reasons that we're having this show tonight and again next week when Greg will be here once again at 7:30 right here. You'll be right here. Okay. Because things do change, and we're doing it early in October so that you are mentally prepared and so you do some of this homework before it's too late. Medicare and You 2025, our topic tonight, and our topic again next Wednesday night with Greg MacDonald. Meanwhile, try to stay safe and stay healthy. We'll see you next Wednesday.
The preceding program on PBS Fort Wayne was made possible in part by
Sage Insurance Advisors, LLC. Specializes in Medicare plans and represents insurance companies offering Medicare supplements, Medicare Advantage plans, and Part D prescription drug plans. Serving Northeast Indiana from 4233 East State Boulevard in Fort Wayne and online at sageinsuranceadvisors.com.